Okay, hello. Today I'm gonna talk about another book. Today I'm gonna talk about Motherhood by Sheila Heti. Very interesting book. I finished this one a couple weeks back and I want to talk about it. This book is basically about a woman in her 30s and she's trying to decide whether or not to have a child. And the whole book is back and forth, really in her head. Maybe I'll have a kid. No, I won't do it. Back and forth like that. It's not entirely autobiographical, but it's also not entirely fiction. So it is a retelling of her own experience. I thought it was a cool read. I am someone, I feel like I've kind of come to peace. So I'm like, I definitely want children. I definitely want kids. Should you have children? If you have a general interest in themes of motherhood, parenthood, the debate of whether to have children or not, if you're on the fence, interesting read, pick it up. I would give it, I'd say it was like a 3-star read maybe. I wasn't in love with it. I picked it up in the summer and it took me, like I was going through it pretty quickly, but then it kind of took me a while. I was kind of losing interest in what I was reading because I don't know, it just maybe wasn't what I expected the book to be like. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And I put it down for a little bit because I wasn't really connecting with the book in the way that I wanted to. And then come December, I picked it back up and flew through it, finished the rest of it in like a few days, in like a week. To the things that I really enjoyed in the book, I have some notes here so I don't like forget what I was thinking about when reading it. I loved the Chinese coin flipping. I thought the Chinese coin flipping was such a cool idea and I kind of want to implement it in my life in little ways where I can just flip a coin and just accept the answer that it gives me. But it did have a really cool touch, a really cool stylistic touch to the novel. There were some really interesting takes, some really cool lines and thought-provoking lines. I was like, oh, wow, that's a good line right there. And there were other lines where I'm like, okay, that sounds really good, but does it really mean anything? Like, this sentence sounds really good, but it doesn't really mean much. Whatever that means. Sounds good though. And then there were other lines where I thought it was really beautiful writing, really astute observations. I really liked how the absence of motherhood was an experience of motherhood in and of itself, and therefore, or hence, she titled the book Motherhood. Should I say spoilers if you don't want to know how the book ends? Spoilers. Okay. I'm gonna say it. She doesn't end up having a child, which is exactly what she wanted. And the resolution of the novel is basically that she hits 40, which I didn't exactly find satisfying because it was like the last chapter and she's like, after all these years of writing this book, I finally reached 40, I can finally breathe. But it's like, fertility doesn't just stop at 40. Like, you don't hit 40 and suddenly, like, you don't have to worry about anything anymore. Maybe for some people. But then I guess it's like the pressure, the societal pressure and the expectations that ease once you're in your 40s. So I was like, okay, I guess, but like turning 40 doesn't suddenly resolve the problem. She could get pregnant just as easily the month before turning 40 just as the month after. But I don't know. Okay. I thought that Miles wasn't a very good boyfriend. Like, also part of the resolution, she was like, Miles truly loves me. Like, he sees me as the woman that I am without having to bear a child. But I didn't think he was a very good boyfriend. And I found his perspective of parenthood to be odd because he has a daughter, which was revealed like halfway through the book. I was like, I had to reread it because it felt kind of sudden. Like, oh, he has a kid? Because of the things he was saying about being a parent, like, oh, it ruins your life. Which, fair enough. But then he has a kid, so I was like, wait, what? And I thought it was a little bit odd, his opinions and the things that he would tell her while literally having like a 5-year-old daughter. And Sheila basically being like her stepmother. And so she is having like a role of motherhood in a way if she's with Miles and Miles has a daughter. Thought that was kind of odd. And good God, the sudden and explicit sex scenes. I would pick up the book, turn to the next page, and go, whoa, 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 whoa. And my mom in the other room's like, hey, what happened? What happened? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just reading a book and I wasn't expecting that. Like, not even that it was like super hot and sexy. She's just like, yeah, I went to the gym and then I came home and then Miles fucked me from behind. And so it's like, whoa, 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 God. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, period. Okay, let's be vulnerable, yes. But very jarring sex scenes that caught me off guard more than once or twice. So I found that kind of funny. And the fact that she sent the book to her mother immediately, like the very first person that she sent it to was her mom. And that mortified me, knowing reading the scenes and the thought of like her mom reading those scenes, because this is autobiographical, no? Horrified about it, like, oh, I can't even imagine. I thought it was really sweet, the connection with her grandmother, having never met her grandmother, and the connection that she had, even though I guess it was a curse that was passed down to her. Yeah, that was a whole part of it. She goes to see like a fortune teller or a tarot card reader, and they tell her that her bloodline is cursed. And her great-grandmother passed it on to her mother and passed it on to her, and then she has to be the one to release this trauma that's been passed down, saying, I'm releasing you, I don't need you anymore. And I thought that was a cool aspect. Overall, very unique read, very vulnerable read, for sure. Like, you could feel the vulnerability in the pages, because I was like, I don't know if I could write this and put it out there in the world. But I liked it, and it was the first book I read by Sheila Heti. So I'm curious to read more of her things and see how her style kind of changes across novels and across her work. Now I'm gonna read some of my favorite parts of the book. I won't do too many, I promise. This one, page 21. How can we know how it will go for us ambivalent woman of 37? On the one hand, the joy of children. On the other hand, the misery of them. On the one hand, the freedom of not having children. On the other hand, the loss of never having had them. But what is there to lose? The love, the child, and all those motherly feelings that the mothers speak about in such an enticing way, as though a child is something to have, not something to do. We think of children as something to have and not an act, the act of parenthood, something to do. On page 170, having children is nice. What a great victory to be not nice. The nicest thing to give the world as a child. Do I ever want to be that nice? That's pretty real. On page 158, it seemed to me like all my worrying about not being a mother came down to this history, this implication that a woman is not an end in herself. She is a means to a man who will grow up to be an end in himself and do something in the world, while a woman is a passageway through which a man might come. On page 134, living one way is not a criticism of every other way of living. Her decision about life is no statement about yours. One person's life is not a political or general statement about how all lives should be. Other lives should be able to exist alongside our own without any threat or judgment at all, which I find very true. We're talking about not having kids. I feel like a draft dodger from the army in which so many of my friends are serving. I thought that was a funny way to describe it. So, those are my thoughts on Motherhood by Sheila Heti. And yeah, I don't have any kids. And I hope to have some in the future, near future. So I thought it was a really interesting read. I'm definitely someone who enjoys these sort of themes and topics and the sort of philosophical aspect of it. So if you're someone like that too, pick up Motherhood. And if you have any comments or anything you want to say, you read the book, leave a comment. All right, thanks for watching and have a good day.